Well, I was sitting there thinking, like, gosh, how fortunate am I to come here today, because there's a lot that I need in this room, such as public speaking help and a new wardrobe, and to get my message out on the radio, and to be on Instagram and know when to be there, and to get good sleep. I feel like I need everything that is in this room, and I want to give a shout out though to Alexa. She said you don't need to know about her, but you really do. Alexa performed at March for Our Lives. She did a poem there. She has since been offered other opportunities to do public speaking. She was just up in Cambria speaking out on gun violence and on student activism. She organized a walkout at Morro Bay High that happened earlier this year to end gun violence on school campuses. And now she's an intern of mine, and I asked her to come to help us capture this on film. So she is an up and coming. I'm not really going to talk too much about volunteerism, and I've never seen my face on a placemat before, so I was like, oh, so I interpreted this just as answering the call, and I'm actually going to grab my water, I'm not sure. And just to be, anyway, so that's how I crafted what I have to say today. Is really just around answering the call, whether that's volunteering or whatever else is there. So I will not ever look back and wonder if I have done or said enough. But that is a new thing for me. I couldn't say that 10 years ago. I probably couldn't have said that 5 years ago, or even last year, right after the inaugural march. And I'll be honest that even though I feel like I can say it today, there's times when I'd rather pull a blanket over my head than answer the call. And I'm sure that many of you can relate. There's times when answering the call wasn't even in focus for me. It wasn't in my line of sight or my field of vision at all. When I was a child, I was incredibly quiet. I had an aunt say to me one time, "Are you mute?" I babysat, because that's what you do when you're a girl and you want to get a job and you want your first job, you go babysit somebody. And the girl that I babysat for complained. She was like, "She never talks," and I was fired. And then in middle school, people knew I was super smart, but my principal, my teachers, my counselor were like, "She doesn't live up to her potential. She's so quiet." I just never talked. And somehow, that quietness translated into me not being the person that I was meant to be. And I would think to myself, what is potential? Like, what does that even mean? And I would hear people talk about how I didn't live up to my potential. And I just couldn't figure out, what is that? And so I didn't use my voice. And for a long time, I had to struggle with that. What does that mean to use my voice? And there were times that I didn't answer my call in ways that are like super embarrassing and shaming to talk about now. One time I was with a girlfriend, we were in her black Nissan truck. She backed up, she hit the Mercedes next to her. We looked at each other and took off. And I should have said to her, "Let's just write a note, leave them a note," right? But I didn't do that. And I didn't think about, even if it doesn't work, at least I had tried. That wasn't on my radar yet. And the real reason I didn't use my voice in that moment is because I was scared. I didn't know what would happen if I used my voice. There was another time that sits with me to this day when I didn't answer the call. And it's actually harder and it's bigger to say out loud. It's when a girlfriend from high school told me that she had been raped, and she explained it in detail, and we were on the phone. And I could feel the weight of the telephone in my hand listening to her story. And she was locked in her dorm room, nobody could get in, she couldn't get help. And as I listened to her story, I just asked her, like, "Did you tell your parents?" And she said no. And I left it there. Like, I didn't respond, I didn't come back to it, I didn't confront the guy who happened to be a friend of both of us. I let my silence stand in for me. And I did that because I didn't know what else to say. And so I want to say that about answering the call. It can be scary, and sometimes we don't know how to answer because it's as simple as not knowing what to say to somebody. So that was my pattern. I didn't know what to do when hard things happened. It was like, oh, that sucks, okay, here I go. And I didn't know then what I know now, that even though answering the call, when answering the call takes bravery, you only have to be brave that first time. And so all of you in this room are obviously answering the call. In your professional life, certainly, I can feel it, the energy in the room. I am sure there are ways that you still are a little bit scared, right? And I want to say to that it only takes bravery the first time. And after that, the things you thought you were afraid of start to slip away. And answering the call or using your voice becomes habit. Before we try answering the call, we usually know when we've missed it. At least I do. I get that feeling of unease, that feeling of being inconsequential, and I start to say to myself, like, maybe I should have, and I know I've missed it. And that sometimes, though, that feeling will stay with us until it's really too much to bear. And so I think answering the call is one part bravery and one part just having no other choice but forward. So when I answered the call, it was November 12th, 2016, and I was sitting in the back seat of my husband's Prius, and we were on the way to Redding, California. And I will say that's because answering the call is glamorous like that. You can do it from the back seat of the car. And so I was in the back seat of the car because my mother-in-law was with us, and I was trying to be polite. I really hate the back seat, but I wanted to be that kind person to my mother-in-law, and I knew I had some work to do. And I'll tell you, answering the call is like that too, that you have to find time to fit it in. Nobody has time to answer the call. You have to fit it in. So I had my Chromebook balanced on my lap, I had my iPhone turned on, I had my hotspot turned on, and I was ready. I was ready to go. And as we drive, my mind is ablaze with everything that the 2016 election meant. Just days earlier, the first woman to ever be nominated as presidential nominee from a major party had lost the election. But not only did she lose the election, she lost the election to a man who admitted to sexual assault. And so no, whatever you feel about that election or whatever you feel about politics, she lost that election to a man who admitted to sexual assault. And so as we drive, I'm also thinking about Dorothy Jackson. She's my husband's grandmother, and we're on our way to her memorial. And she was born before women could vote. And she never mentioned that. I never heard her talk about being born before women could vote, and then who she was now in this lifetime. She spoke very few words. She made potato chip cookies. I don't know if you guys have ever tried them. Yeah, one of my favorites. She loved frogs. She knit sweaters into her 80s when her infant son was born, and she was a quarter Wiyot Indian. She was the oldest living member of her tribe. And she was born before women, let alone Native women, really were thought to have much worth at all. She was born in that time. But she went on to marry. She went on to raise 5 children. She had a career. She became a homeowner. She volunteered for the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. She did voice her opinions at times, and she did vote. But what she didn't do, of all the hurdles she got through, she did not live to see the first female president of our United States. So we're flying up the I-5, and I'm thinking about these 2 women who had made marks on my life. And I'm wondering, what are the stories that I want my sons and their sons and daughters to tell about me? That I stood by as history rolled on, or that I used my voice to ensure a positive and just future? Not only for myself, but for them. And for people like Alexa, who was gracious enough to come with me today. And so in that moment, it wasn't about bravery. It was just about there was nothing left to do. I had no other choice. So I press publish on my Facebook event, inviting the public to the Women's March of San Luis Obispo. And the rest is history. There are 10,000 people that showed up. most of you know a bit of that story, so I won't retell that story. But I will tell you this, because of just pressing that button, because of that feeling that there's nothing else left for me to do, my life is super different right now. And I think I mentioned, I've never seen my face on a placemat before. That's just one of the many, many things that have changed. So there's big things that I've done, and I do lean on these when I feel insecure. They're the things that when I say them to you right now, I am a little bit afraid it's going to sound like bragging. But I'm going to do it anyway, because I am a person who has always been described as not living up to her potential. And so saying these things out loud to you is as much to share with you about how good things happen when you answer the call as it is to prove to myself that I am doing good in the world. And I would urge you to do this too. I would urge you to relish your moments. I would urge you to use them relentlessly in those times when you're not sure, when you're afraid to do public speaking, when you haven't gone to the gym, when you haven't said hello to that person or done that thing that's been on your mind to do very much. I would urge you to remember these moments of success for yourself. So because I answered the call, I've brought thousands to the streets. We've had large demonstrations, we've had small demonstrations, always fighting for a more positive and just future. Women's March San Luis Obispo, the first one had 10,000 people. We did Hear Our Vote rally. We brought another 5,000 people out, really to talk about voting, which is like kind of boring to a lot of people. And 5,000 people came out to fight for that. We had March for Our Lives that Alexa was at, that brought another few thousand people. And then we've done smaller events because that's important too. And one of the most special ones that I feel like we've done was our Practical Politics soiree, which was focused on getting more women to run for office. And so in November, we didn't really see that in this county, or in June, we didn't see that in this county, and I'm hoping people will throw their hat in the ring for June. We also did Being an Ally, which was an event to support our immigrant population and how we interface with our immigrant population. I've raised thousands of dollars. I would say we've raised close to $100,000 on no fundraising experience, just a fantastic team and a community of people who also wanted to answer the call. And we've built outreach across our county. One of the most proud outreach moments was recently when we had the family separation actions. There were actions all the way from Paso in the north to Nipomo and Santa Maria in the south. Our entire community is now linked together to fight for a more positive and just future. I was also named Woman of the Year for our congressional district. I got to receive that award in front of hundreds of family and friends. And out of all this, I was invited to attend the State of the Union in Washington, D.C., and I went there in January, along with 19.4% of women who are our congressional representatives. So just 19.4% of our congressional representatives are women. And when I was there, I sat in the same room as our president, as both houses of Congress, as our Supreme Court justices, and as the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I get to say that I was invited, not because I have money and power and influence, but because I decided to use my voice. So equally, or perhaps more important, are the people I've met and the relationships I've built along the way because of answering the call. At the State of the Union, I was honored to attend Nancy Pelosi's party. Regardless of what you think of her, she's the most powerful person in the House, and her party is the place to be. It was packed, it was sweaty, my mascara ran, but I was shoulder to shoulder with the decision makers of our nation, and I got to talk to some of those 19.4% of women. And do you know what they said? They said, thank you for the work you're doing. We have been working so hard for so long. And in that moment, I realized that when we set out to share our voice, we don't know who will be helping. It could be a person in power. It could be a person who has nothing. But when we try anyways, that is answering a call. And so on this journey, I also made friends with Neofita. She lived in Grover Beach and she was facing deportation. And so whatever you think about immigration, it's important to know what facing deportation meant to her. It meant giving up the house that she owned. It meant giving up Sunday school that she taught at. It meant saying goodbye to her 3 American-born children who live here in Grover Beach. And it meant giving up the job that she went to daily, cleaning hotel rooms. Leaving would mean her entire world was torn apart. So despite my best efforts, Neofita was deported in January. And I talked to her from a shelter in Tijuana. And I could hear babies wailing in the background. And we both cried, of course. We both cried. But months later, I received a text from her on Mother's Day. And you would think she would text me and say, I miss my children so much, I wish I was there. But that's not what she sent. Instead, she sent me one of those cute little gifts with animals and balloons and said, Feliz Dia de Madre, Happy Mother's Day. And so when I think of Neofita, I am reminded that when we show our humanity, even in the loneliest and darkest of moments, that is answering the call. So over the past couple of years, I've had the opportunity to write hundreds of thank yous to those who walk shoulder to shoulder on this journey with me. And they all deserve thank yous. From the volunteer peacekeepers that come to our marches, to Harvey's Honey Huts, who gives us free bathrooms, which is really important at a women's march, to our sign language interpreter, Katie Boyce, who offers her services again and again so people with hearing impairment can use their voice too. But one person who's always on my thank you list works in law enforcement, and we couldn't be more different on the outside. There's issues like gun control, police brutality, and abortion that we are totally on opposite sides from. It's those hot button things that we don't agree on. But I will tell you, this person is caring, they're dependable, and we laugh together. And they call out my strengths and believe in me, even when I don't see it in myself. And so when I went to DC and visited the Supreme Court when I was there for the State of the Union, of course I had to go to the gift shop, and I picked up this coin, and it had on one side a picture of the Supreme Court, and on the other side, E pluribus unum. And I held that coin in my hand, out of many, one. And what I realized, and I understood the profoundness for the very first time of that phrase, out of many, one. Because we don't have to agree on everything, but when we hold one another up, in spite of our differences, that is answering the call. And so lately I've gotten to be joyous in sharing my work with my sons, my children, and at first I held that really tightly and I would worry if my name was in the paper, I would talk to them and say, you might hear about this at school, or here's how you can handle it if somebody says something negative to me about me at school, and I would coach them. And then I started hearing my 12-year-old say, you know what you should do with Women's March? And so we would talk, and I would listen to his ideas, and we would strategize. What could we do next? How could we move this forward? And one day he said to me, why don't you run for president? And so I realized that when we do the work and we involve others in it in a way that makes them feel included, that is answering the call. And so about a month ago, I answered the call again, and in a much different way. I said yes to something that never in my life did I think I would do, and I had to think about it for a really long time. I had to imagine myself doing it and not doing it. I had to do a gut check. How do I feel with that image in my head? Because answering the call is like that too. Sometimes you have to ponder it for a really long time. So I stand here, this is not a campaign speech, but I stand here proud today to share with you that I decided to run for office after couple years of working on this issue, I decided to throw my hat in the ring, not for president, but for city council, because all politics is local. And for a person like me, who has set our voice aside for so long, it's really pretty momentous to stand here and get to say that. And it all started with one long car ride up the I-5 when I said yes to myself and yes to my voice. Yes to creating a positive and just future that all of us want and deserve. The story doesn't end here though. I'm almost done, but it doesn't end here. What I've shared with you is really, obviously, it's my narrative, but I am just a small part of this story. It's those around me who have jumped in, the Alexas of the world who have said yes to their voice, who have answered their call, and who have made all of this possible. It's the 9,999 other people who showed up on January 21st to march in the rain. It's the students from almost every high school in our county who set aside Saturday after Saturday to get ready for March for Our Lives and to say no to gun violence. It's these people who are answering their call that make this a big story. And I'm guessing some of them are in the room right now, so I want to thank you if you're one of those people who has supported us. But I want to urge you as I close to look for those opportunities when it's time to say yes. To yes to your voice, yes to your own call. And I know that you're going to feel it in those moments when your stomach is tight with anticipation. Women can feel these things. Your mouth gets dry with the taste of possibility. It's going to be on the tip of your tongue as you get ready to answer in the affirmative to that thing that you have never done. Each time you feel that, remember that fear is fleeting. It will live in the past. It will only be there if you pay attention to it. Answering the call is really about your future. It's really about our future. It's that you are the butterfly that flaps its wings and causes a tornado on the other side of the world. And all that momentum can be churned up from your one tiny movement. And I will guarantee that it can create more than you ever imagined. So thank you.